What's going on, you guys? It's Rahul here, back again with another video, and today I'm here with another top 10, and this time it's my top 10 tight ends in the NFL right now. So before this video does get started, you guys know what to do. Click that like button if you enjoyed this, it really helps out the channel, and also make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I am finally going to do a face reveal. But with that being said, let's get this video started. And at number 10, we got Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos. Noah Fant, in my opinion, is pretty overlooked by a lot of people. When people talk about, some of the best tight ends in the league, Noah Fant, I feel like, should be talked about a lot more. His receiving ability, it's really good. He's extremely fast for tight end, and overall is just a great receiving tight end, and he's pretty unguardable. I mean, considering the fact that, he's pretty fast, and, when you also consider his size, and along with that, Noah Fant, he's just a really explosive player. Now, his blocking, I got to admit, not the best out there, but he's not the worst blocker in the world. And in 2020, he had 673 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. And to make it even more impressive, his quarterback play, it was not exactly very good. And if Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, if they can play well in 2021, then I think Noah Fant is going to have a really big season. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for Noah Fant. At number 9, we got Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas Goedert, he is one of the better blocking tight ends in the NFL and is overall just a really good blocker. And along with that, he can catch the ball pretty well. He's had to share the load with Zach Ertz, throughout his career. But in my opinion, Dallas Goedert, I think he's going to have, really shift into that tight end 1 spot, and he's really going to have a pretty big season in 2020. Because especially when you really look at, Zach Ertz situation with Philadelphia, it really looks like Zach Ertz time with Philly, it's probably going to come to an end because there's contract disputes and all that stuff. And Zach Ertz, I will say, he's getting up there in age, but he's still a pretty good player. But Dallas Goedert, in my opinion, he's better than Zach Ertz right now. And Dallas Goedert, overall, a really good player. And in 2020, he had 524 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. And keep in mind, quarterback play, it wasn't very good, and he missed 5 games. And in my opinion, those stats, they definitely would have been much better had he played those 5 games. But at number 8, we got Mike Gesicki, one of the most underrated tight ends and one of the most underrated players in the NFL. He is a really big guy. And he's really fast as a tight end, and I mean, he's one of the better receiving tight ends in the NFL. And while his blocking, his blocking is not good. However, he's not really used to block a lot, and he's just not very good at it. But Mike Gesicki, his receiving ability, it's amazing, to put it simply. He's like a really big slot receiver, and as I said before, he's really big, and he's also really fast and explosive for tight end. And in 2020, he had 703 receiving yards and 6 receiving touchdowns. Mike Gesicki, I mean, if Tua Tagovailoa, if he has a big year, Mike Gesicki, I think he's going to have an even better year, and he could have over 800 or 900 receiving yards, along with that, over 5 touchdowns. And Mike Gesicki, overall, an extremely underrated player. And keep in mind, this is all coming from a Patriots fan. At number 7, we got Hunter Henry of my New England Patriots. Hunter Henry, he's a pretty good traditional tight end. He's really good. He's a pretty good blocker. And along with that, he can catch the ball well, and he's a pretty good red zone threat. Now, I got to admit, he does have his health concerns, and I mean, he's definitely dealt with injuries in the past. In fact, he missed all of 2018 with an injury. And Hunter Henry, I mean, when he's on the field, though, he's an extremely good player. And I feel like he's kind of underrated, and a lot of people have forgotten how good of a player he was. Like, I remember in the first few years of his career, he was really hyped up, and then after that 2018 injury, I feel like a lot of people felt like forgot how good of a player he was. And Hunter Henry, overall, I'm really excited to see him on my New England Patriots, and I think he's going to be used a little bit more in the blocking department, but I do think he will be used a lot in the red zone, and I think he's still going to be used for his catching ability. And overall, Hunter, he's a great player. And in 2020, he had 613 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. At number 6 is a guy you might not expect, and that is Robert Tonyan of the Green Bay Packers. Robert Tonyan, I know I've said the word underrated a lot throughout this video, and I've thrown it around a lot, as I said before, but Robert Tonyan, he is truly underrated. He is extremely underrated. I mean, it's just crazy, and baffling to me how he didn't even, get much consideration for the Pro, like how he didn't even make the Pro Bowl, Robert Tonyan in 2020 had 586 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns, and he is a touchdown machine. And I mean, it's crazy how Evan Ingram made the Pro Bowl over him, considering how bad of a year he had and how good of a year Robert Tonyan had. Now, this is not meant to be an Evan Ingram diss segment. Believe me, it really isn't. But Robert Tonyan, it's crazy how underrated he is. And Robert Tonyan, overall, really underrated player. And I hope he does, keep on producing like this consistently, because I don't want him to be like one of those players who, just is a one-hit wonder, or like he's carried by Aaron Rodgers or whatever. But Robert Tonyan, overall, really good player. Making our way into the top 5, we got TJ Hockenson of the Detroit Lions. TJ Hockenson in his rookie season, he was kind of underwhelming. However, his sophomore season, it was a lot better, and he had a pretty good sophomore season. He made the Pro Bowl in 2020, so that was already pretty impressive. And along with that, I mean, he's probably just a solid all-around tight end. He's pretty good at blocking, and as a receiving tight end, he's also pretty good. He's decent after the catch. He's a decent athlete, and he's really good in the red zone. And in my opinion, in 2021, he could have a really big season. In my opinion, by the end of next season, I think he could definitely, rise on this list, considering the fact that the Detroit Lions, their receiving core, it is not very good. So he's going to be relied on, to do a lot of the receiving damage. And along with that, Detroit, I think the Lions are going to have a run-first offense, and because of that, they're probably going to run a lot of, play action, and that's going to create a lot of good opportunities for TJ Hockenson, and a lot of good opportunities to get a lot of yards and score a lot of touchdowns. And TJ Hockenson overall, really, I think he's a pretty good player, and I think he could have an extremely big season in 2021. Pick him up in fantasy football if you can. But yeah, this is not a fantasy football video. But at number 4, we got Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Mark Andrews, I got to admit, he did have a down season in 2020. He wasn't quite as good as he was in 2019. But don't get this twisted. Mark Andrews is still one of the better tight ends in the league. He's a fantastic red zone threat, really good in the red zone. And I mean, at times, he's pretty much the entirety of Baltimore's passing attack, and he is Lamar Jackson's #1 option. Now, I do think Lamar Jackson's obviously going to pass it, a bit more to his receivers, considering the improvements they made. But, Mark Andrews, he's still going to be relied upon, score a lot of touchdowns in the red zone, and be a good receiving option for Lamar Jackson. And overall, Mark Andrews is a really good player. Now, I will admit, he does have his consistency issues. Like, there's going to be times, when, like in the first half of a game, he's going to score 2 touchdowns, and then after that, he's going to go silent. And then there's going to be, stretches of, games where, he's really good, and then there's going to be a stretch of games where he's not that good. But Mark Andrews, he's still a pretty good player. And making our way into the top 3 is Darren Waller. He was a late bloomer, and believe it or not, he's been in the league since 2015. But Darren Waller, he's really shown out in these last 2 seasons. He's an extremely versatile player, and this man is so unguardable. He's too big and strong, and he's too tall for a lot of defensive backs to cover. But at the same time, he's just too fast for a lot of linebackers to cover. And Darren Waller, I mean, he's kind of what a lot of people thought Kyle Pitts, was coming out of college. Now, and this is not a video on Kyle Pitts, but, Darren Waller, one of the most unguardable players in the NFL, and this man has just been amazing the past 2 years. And in 2020, he had 1,196 receiving yards and 9 receiving touchdowns. And our runner-up on this list is George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, George Kittle, he only played 8 games last season, but he was still pretty good in those 8 games. And I think we all know how good of a player he is when healthy. He's an elite receiving tight end, and along with that, he's a great blocking tight end, and probably the best blocking tight end we have in the NFL. He has a really good yards after the catch ability, and in my opinion, he is the best tight end in the NFL when he's healthy. And the only reason why I have him at number 2 is because the guy above him, he had a better season in my opinion, obviously, and along with that, the health issues. But in 2020, in 8 games, he had 634 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. And as you guys can probably already guess, and as you guys can see on the screen right about now, in number 1 is Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, I'm going to try and make this segment kind of short, since Travis Kelce, we all know how good of a player he is. He had the best season of his career. He broke the record for the most receiving yards in a season by a tight end, and simply put, he's an elite receiving tight end, and he is so unguardable. You can line him up as a wide receiver, and overall, Travis Kelce, he is such a good player. And in 2020, he had 1,416 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. But that's kind of all I have to say, for this video. But thank you guys so much for watching. It truly does mean a lot to me. Again, make sure to like the video if you enjoyed, as it really helps out the channel. And also, make sure to subscribe if you guys are new and enjoy this type of content, so you don't miss out on any new videos like this. Plus, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and once we hit our goal, I'm finally going to do a face reveal. But with that being said, I'm out, you guys.